and good evening, depending on where you are. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Elise Uberoi, Head of Social Policy Section in the House of Commons Library at the UK Parliament, and also Deputy Chair of IPEN, the International Parliament Engagement Network, which co-hosts this public engagement event with the IPU. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this seminar on developments, innovations, and challenges in public engagement in the Mexican Congress. This webinar is part of our series of seminars that explores issues of public engagement with Parliament, following the publication of the Global Parliamentary Report on Public Engagement in 2022. Before introducing today's topic in more detail and our speaker, just a few quick housekeeping rules. The seminar has translation available in French and in Spanish, and you can click on the interpretation button at the bottom. Please, everyone, can you keep your mic muted? And if you want, please keep your cameras on because it's nice for us to be able to see your faces. So the topic of today's seminar, which we have organized, as I said, jointly by IPEN and the Inter-Parliamentary Union, the IPU, we're going to explore how the Mexican Parliament engages with citizens. We have with us today Dr. Khemvirg Puente, who is a politics professor at the National University of Mexico, where he is also the responsible person for the Open Parliament and Legislative Transparency Observatory and the editor of the Journal of Information Law Studies. Khemvirg will outline a range of public engagement initiatives, including the Legislative Museum of the Chamber of Deputies, the Parliamentary TV and Radio channel, the Citizen website, the Open Parliament agenda, the Children's Parliament, the Youth Parliament, and the Women's Parliament. And I have not tried to say these things in Spanish. I will leave that to you, Khemvirg. It will also reflect on the effectiveness of these tools in engaging citizens and enhancing trust. So after I hand over to Khemvirg in a minute, he will talk for a while. And at the end of that talk, there'll be an opportunity for you to ask some questions. So please either raise your hand, and you can do that with the reactions at the bottom of your screen, or you can type your question in the chat and I'll pick it up. So without any further ado, please take over, Khemvirg.
Thank you, Elise, and thank you everyone for connecting and for the opportunity to the IPU and IPEN, Christina and Andy and Fiona and everyone. Thank you very much. Well, before describing the catalog of activities developed by the Mexican Congress to get closer to citizens, I must provide some context about the political system and the role of Parliament during the transition to democracy, because then we will understand better about these activities and some rituals that the Parliament now have developed. So I'm gonna share a presentation. Of course, it is available for you if you need it. Let me show you. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. Let's see. Okay. You see the presentation, do you? Yeah, thank you. Well, as I was saying, about the context. Well, Mexico is a weak democracy, which combines practices and rituals from both authoritarianism and liberal democracies. So that's very important to understand, because you will see that we combine some simulation of democratic practices and effective democratic practices. So it is important to know that between 1999 and 2000, only one political party ruled the country, fostering a culture of democratic simulation, because elections were held, but only one political party could win. So that's part of what I say, the culture of simulation, that it is part of the political culture in this weak democracy. During the hegemonic party rule, the centralization of power in the official party and in the president, and the 1933 rule prohibiting legislative re-election allowed that the sitting president to control the political careers of anyone interested in participating in politics, because no one politician could be re-elected, not even a mayor, not even a local legislator, not even a national legislator. So the ruling party control political careers. So after several traumatic events during the 60s and the 70s in the last century, including two student massacres and a long process of democratic transition began, accelerating as society mobilized in response to a very precarious economic situation in the 80s, in the early 80s, and a devastating earthquake in 1985. So those events were very important for the citizens' mobilization. And one striking fact, that just to remember, in 1976, there was only one candidate and no opposition candidates in the presidential election. So you can see why I say we have this simulation of democratic practices, because, well, you have a presidential election, but you have 4 or 5 parties in the election, but only one candidate, and the same candidate with each party. So with one vote, he will have won the election, of course. So in 1997, and in the 70s, then started a democratic transition. In 1997, the dominant party lost the congressional elections, and in 2000, it also lost the presidential elections. So this was the time for the Congress to assume, to take control of their own functions, because these developments allowed the Congress to gain political autonomy and establish channels of communication with citizens. So in 1997 marked the beginning of significant changes in the Mexican Congress. No political party had a majority on its own, forcing parties to reach negotiations to drive improvements. However, while there was a transition to democracy, certain problems got worse, mainly crime and violence, poverty, and corruption. And more recently, the re-centralization of power and setbacks in democratic practices. But those two issues are more recent, like in the last 3 or 4 years. So the Mexican Congress began to exercise its functions, its functions which, although outlined in the Constitution, had not been in practice. For example, legislation and budgeting were previously just designed by the government and the Congress merely providing the seal of approval, and often without any deliberation. Similarly, there was no parliamentary questions, for example, or control tools or oversight tools. So from those years onwards, both chambers began holding the government accountable through control and oversight. The new empowered Congress in this weak democracy was characterized by a redesign of the legislative power. So we have this. This is just a graph to see you how was the weight of opposition and government parties in the Chamber of Deputies, and this is the stage that I call the Democratic Congress. It's just to show you that it's been a phase of the Mexican Congress development. So the new empowered Congress was characterized, as I said, by redesign of the functions and the organization of it. And a new committee system was designed, and then they created the Citizen Participation Committee. It was the first committee specialized in getting closer to the public. They didn't have, the committee didn't have an agenda particularly, and they just tried to hear the public. So they wanted to know what the public wanted. It was like a petitions committee, but without the formalities of a committee, of a petitions system. So there was a new governing bodies, because before this Congress, the speaker was elected on a monthly basis. So we had 12 speakers during 1 year, and you can imagine how unstable was the Congress electing one speaker each month. The same with the junta, which is a governing body that controls the legislative agenda. This junta was designed in the authoritarian regime as a one-member committee. I mean, the leader of the majority had the control of the agenda. But since 1999, there is a joint committee with the leaders of each party in the House. So it was redesigned how the legislative agenda was approved. There was gender parity reforms. We have now a 50-50 parliament, mainly developed by quotas in proportional representation. So the electoral authorities have the power to correct the public lists of candidates of the parties in order to make it possible to have a parity 50-50 Congress. And new rules, of course, and procedures, and a strong bicameral Congress as well, because the second chamber was not very relevant before, but since 2000, it is a symmetrical and coherent bicameral Congress. So this is the context that I was that I needed to tell you before before describing this catalog of engagement activities that the Congress have developed. I'm of course showing the different types of activities, because some of them are just in the informative dimension or educative dimension, and just a few with in the participation dimension. The first one that I wanted to share with you, it is the Legislative Museum. It was open to the public in 1994, but in the first moment of the museum, it was a historical documents and objects repository. It was not actually like a real museum. It was just an historic overview of Mexico. And the museographic discourse was a review of the legislative power through the constitutions. That was all. But when the Legislative Museum was when it changed, when it was renewed, then it changed the discourse that because this second stage was to make it interactive with technology. And as I wrote it there, the main museographic discourse was about democracy, the public, and political representation. So it changed the view of the museum, because it was not only, the purpose of it was not only to provide information to the public, but also to make it interactive. And when I say interactive, it's not only because of the technology in the museum, but also with two workshops that they have for visitors. The first workshop is called Builders of Democracy, which is a lawmaking process simulation, and the Youth Congress, which is a simulation of how to be elected and how to make your voice heard by the Congress. So as you can see in the pictures here, this is more than a museum. It is also an activity, well, a workshop space for interacting. And obviously, they have guided tours and they have visitors, but in the museum, you can deliver what you the results of your workshop, and the results of it will be delivered to the house, and the members are informed about the results of these workshops. What is the main problem? Well, obviously, as any other public office, it's not open on Sundays, and it's not open on just sometimes when there's a very important political issue that is going to be debated in the House, the public cannot access to the parliament, and then the museum is blocked. So even if you have reserved your space for a tour or for the workshop, they do not respect your reservation. So that's a problem that obviously it can be amended, but well, that's what happened. But this is a good practice, I guess. The second is the Parliament TV and radio. Parliament TV was a consequence of the democratization of Congress, because in 1997, opposition members said that the government controlled the traditional media. So any information at the news about Congress stigmatize their work and the results of the congressional activities. So they developed their own TV channel, and they got the license from the government, and they have now 3 different public signals for the Congressional TV channel. But if you access to the internet website, you can have up to 8 signals. So you can, at first, what has changed, that was at first, the congressional authority selected what the public will watch. But now the mechanism has changed, and the public now can select what they want to watch. So, for example, if there's a plenary meeting, but you don't want to see the plenary meeting, you want to see a committee meeting or a hearing, you can select and you can see what you want to. Not what the House selects what you have to watch. So this is part of this is an improvement of the congressional TV. What is the problem? That they don't have any feedback from the. Of course, you can provide some comments on the YouTube sign, but you don't have any feedback with the channel. The channel as well has a committee. This bicameral committee is the membership of this committee is with 3 House and 3 Senate members. It has an advisory board, which is honorary citizen. So 11 members are selected from the public. They approve some recommendations for the channel. And there's an audience ombudsman, which can be, which is actually always trying to tell the authorities how they can provide, because sometimes, in the debates, there's a I don't know, a racist discourse, and the ombudsman tells the authority to make a video providing some context that there was something wrong in that speech, and they amend the contents of the productions or the everything in the signal. These channels are 24 hours, the three main channels. The others are just open when it's needed. So the first signal is with the most important, the second signal is just for the Chamber of Deputies, and the third signal is just for the Senate. And the rest that are on the internet, you can watch depending on the activities. It's very difficult to measure how many people watch the channel, but what we have measured through some polls is that 6 of 10 people, 6 of 10 people know about the Congress channel, and 73% of the people surveyed consider that it fulfills its functions of publicized legislative activity. It is the main source of information, even for media, about the legislative activity. Obviously, it needs a budget that it is about $11 million per year just for the channel. The third tool is the citizens website. There is there are two platforms for the House or the Chamber of Deputies, and the first one, the traditional one, is this one. And as you can see, it's a very specialized official internet portal, because it is mainly information provider. It's a communication tool for the legislative community, members, staff, lobbyists, media, etc., but not necessarily intended for the general public. So if you go to this traditional or official internet website, you might get lost with the information. It has almost everything, but it's very difficult if you're not well informed about politics to understand. So that's why the Congress, the House, the Chamber of Deputies, or the lower chamber, developed a citizens or a citizen portal. That is a platform that uses simple and clear language, aiming to disseminate the history, the work, the functions, and daily activities at the Chamber of Deputies. So through this platform, one can establish contact with members and their offices, and you can see what's going on daily at the Chamber. So this portal is available in English, Spanish, of course, and two indigenous languages, Mayan and Nahuatl. So this is new tool to approach to the people, and it has only 2 years or 3 years, and it's part of the new tools to get closer to the people. The fourth, it's what in Mexican Congress the members call open parliament hearings. These hearings are more like a participation hearings as a ritual, because public hearings are a mechanism for consulting specialists and individuals. However, this mechanism has become a ritual with no impact at all on the contents of the laws or the bills that are approved. It serves mainly to publicize and provide external actors or stakeholders with a space to express their opinions on each bill before legislative committees. But it is optional. It depends on the chairperson of each committee to open a public hearing. In recent years, mainly the 4 most recent years, the legislative majority have refused to hold hearings because they say they slow down the legislative process, while the opposition encourages opposition organizations and mobilize and use these hearings as a filibustering strategy. So that's what the majority says that why they do not want to open the hearings. And the opposition, it is true that the opposition sometimes uses these hearings as a filibuster strategy. And that's an important problem. So political parties have not succeeded in using this instrument to improve the contents of the bills. And the last one is the children's parliament. The children's parliament is as well, you know what a children's parliament is. It's an opportunity for children to know how institutions work, to participate, to engage with some institutions, particularly in this. This is one of the most, well, I guess this is the most successful tool, because representatives are elected at their own schools, and once you got the school representative, there's another election in the district for the representative of the district. But they do not only elect them, but they have a meeting and they debate their agendas. And once they debate their agendas, the members elect their own representative for the district. It has worked because the political parties do not participate, and the political parties stay away until they meet at Congress. So they have a committee. Here you will see at the left the committee rooms and the plenary rooms in the center. So they elect their own speaker, their own deputy speakers, and the committee chairpersons, and this children's parliament are there are some requirements, of course, to elect these members, but there's something, I guess this is very important. They elect the representative, but not only for the children's parliament, they are elected for the whole year. So you have your since you are when you are a child, you have a representative that has a voice in Congress, not only in the 3 days children's parliament. He or she is the representative of that district during the whole year. So the outcomes of the work conducted by the parliament are presented to the members and made public. The Congressional channel broadcasts the debates and the legislature's responses to the agenda approved by the Children's Parliament. Women's and youth parliaments have not achieved the level of institutionalization similar of the Children's Parliament, mainly because the political parties and political organizations promote their own agenda through them. And then it becomes a replication of the actual parliament and their political debate. So this is the best tool developed by the Congress. So to final idea is that as the Mexican Congress has taken on a central role in Mexican politics, it has made efforts to engage with citizenry, particularly in education and information dimensions. Its communication strategies have improved significantly, though they have remained limited to specialists, academics, and influential organizations rather than the general public. And the challenge, I guess, now lies in developing participation and consultation mechanisms that become an integral part of the ordinary parliamentary activity. So this is what I wanted to show you as the tools that the Mexican Congress has been developing as a public engagement in the recent years. We don't know what is going to happen in the next few years, because for the first time in more than 20 years, majority coalition has 2/3 majority now, and they can change the constitution, and they have already done without any deliberation with the public. But well, that's only what we don't know what's going to happen in the future in this Congress. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks very much for that, Khemvirg. That was really interesting. So let's see if anyone has any questions. Can you please put your hand up or post them in the chat if you have any questions? I can't see any yet, so I might jump in with one of my own, if that's all right. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about, you mentioned the workshops in the Legislative Museum, which sounds really interesting. And it sounded like a really good way for people to engage directly with the legislative or the parliamentary agenda, because you said that the results of the workshops are also shared with members. I wonder if you could say a bit more about how members engage with what comes out of those workshops.
Yeah. Once the agenda is approved, they approve it as exactly as a decree or a bill approved, and instead of sent to the government to publish in the official gazette, they send the Children's Parliament send it to the Speaker of the House, and the Speaker of the House has the responsibility to read this agreement to the plenary. So the plenary know what the results are, and the topics are sent to the specialized committee or the standing committees, so they have the chance to either have a response, official response, or to make a bill to reform a law that is needed, but it's not taken exactly as a bill, but it's just the topic that is put it in the agenda. So it's not compulsory to approve what they approve. I don't know if they approve something that is not, I don't know if they don't have the budget or something. They just have a response, and they publish this response in the local Hansard. This is the Gazeta. It's our Hansard.
Thanks very much. Sounds really interesting. So we have a question from Sally. Do you want to introduce yourself and ask your question, Sally?
Yes, hi, I'm Sally Coyne. I'm Head of Public Engagement Services at the Scottish Parliament. And that was a fascinating presentation. And yes, pleased to having it. I'd love to share it with colleagues. You have met some of the challenges that we have, but you've met them in different ways. So that's been really interesting to watch. Part of my responsibility is around languages. And in Scotland, we have British Sign Language for the deaf community, and we have a Scottish language called Gaelic. I just wonder if you have other languages that you support and how you do that. One of the things that we have been doing is putting captions onto all of our videos that we broadcast. And I wondered whether that was something that you do as well.
Yes, we have just simultaneous translation for the deaf, but not in other languages. In other languages, it's just the citizens' website, but it will be what the channel says, that it will be very expensive to have translation, simultaneous translations for the other languages, mainly indigenous languages. But yes, that's the only but it is always in plenary sessions. They always have simultaneous translations, but not the TV productions, because they have their own productions. So just in the plenary and committee sessions.
Thank you, Khemvirg. Do we have any other questions for Khemvirg?
I've got my.
Yes, Christina is.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand. Sorry.
That's okay. I've got quite a few questions, but I'll try to limit myself. And some of it you might have answered to Elise before. I didn't pick up. I was busy thinking about what questions I want to ask, and I didn't pick up on what instrument you're referring to when you replied to Elise. But let's go with this. You mentioned the Citizen Participation Committee at the beginning, which I was really interested. And you said it's like a petitions committee, but without the formality, and the focus is about listening to the public. I'd love to know a little bit more about that. What do they actually do to listen to the public? Because it's actually not that easy to listen to the public, if you see what I mean. You do need mechanisms to do that. And so what do they do? And do they still exist? I wasn't sure whether this was created and it's gone. And then my other question, this is the bit that maybe you've already answered with these, is, so you mentioned the workshops at the museum, Legislative Museum, and then the Children's Parliament. And in both cases, it sounds like you refer to the outcomes that then published, or the outcomes are then sent to to the members, but I wasn't clear what happens at that point. Are there any cases of members picking up on an idea and transforming, say, from the Children Parliament, transforming into a bill, for instance, or transform even just to a question to the government or that sort of thing? So, but also the workshops, because you're saying the workshops, there's two, isn't there? And in one of them, the outcomes are then delivered to the House. So yeah, how does that link to the actual practice? Thank you.
Yes, unfortunately, it's up to the members if they pick the topic that they have that they delivered. So it's not compulsory. It's just they let them know that the public is interested in this topic, but if they don't answer, there's nothing happens actually. What really happens is when the children with the children's parliament, because it is read at the plenary meeting, and all members are informed now what the children's priorities are. So sometimes they do transform this topic into a bill, but it's up to the member or the committee, any committee. So that's what happens, but it is also not compulsory.
So can I just clarify? So it has happened that ideas from the Children's Parliament have been turned into bills. And to laws, and to laws also, or just to bills, draft bills?
I'm not absolutely sure, but I guess it has been, yes.
Okay.
I'm almost sure it has been, but I will need to confirm. Yeah. But yes, it has been.
Sorry, I interrupted you. You were going to say something else.
Oh, no, I was going to say about this Public Participation Committee or Citizen Participation Committee, the first one. This first one, they said, well, we need a Citizen Participation Committee. And they reformed the internal rules to create this committee. But once they were in office, they asked each other, well, now what do we do now? And because other committees had their own public hearings, and they said, well, let's do an open hearing with no agenda. Just let the public come to tell us what will they like to what they want us to legislate on. And they has these open hearings with no topic or any structure agenda. And so they received a lot of petitions. And what they did is just deliver to the specialized committees. And they did nothing, actually, in the committees, because committees wanted to be the origin of their own bills. And so, but it was a good first approach to open the doors to the public. So this committee disappeared. We have no participation, public participation or citizen participation committee, and because it was not health, it was not security, or it was not a topic committee. So, but it was the first. Just to let you know, since the 70s, we have the right to petition, but they didn't have any formal procedure to answer to any petition. So they have trying to create a mechanism, but they haven't done anything institutionalized. Sorry.
Thank you.
Andy, I guess.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Andy, do you want to?
Yeah, thanks. So I was struck by what you said during your presentation and just now about the role of political parties, which, as I heard you, seemed to be sometimes they might be deprioritizing or ignoring or even undermining some of the citizen engagement initiatives which are being put in place. And I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about the role of parties. Do you see any potential for incentives for parties to engage in a more constructive way in these mechanisms? And what would it take for that change to happen?
Well, yes, I guess that we don't have enough incentives now to engage with the public because the majority is now controlled by the government or the new president, and if they prioritize the presidential agenda, so they don't want to open the legislative agenda to the public because they want them to have the presidential agenda approved as a priority. So they don't have that incentive. And the opposition that is that they do have the incentive to approach to the public and incentive the public to participate in Congress, they are using these engagement tools as political flag of resistance, to the presidential agenda. So right now, I see very difficult to structure a platform or a system to make it easier to engage with the public. I've been in touch with some leaders of the house, of both houses, and they are open to listen the some proposals to engage with the public, but recently I have the meeting with a leader who said that he will be interested in hearing how will they do that, but they want to have this meeting in private just to know how they can communicate this type of activities with the rest of the members. But now they are not very open to open the doors to the public.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we have time for one more question. So Alexander, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks very much. Really great presentation, and thanks to IPEN and IPU colleagues for organising. I was really interested, and still am, by this this children's parliament. It sounds like you've really achieved some great outcomes. But I was struck that when you mentioned that the youth parliament hasn't experienced similar successes, and so I was curious to know, was it some sort of like design decisions in setting up the youth parliament, or was it certain mechanisms or the content that was discussed in those sessions, or other engagement barriers that you faced? And so I guess my question is, what are the main barriers there, and what opportunities do you see moving forwards? Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. Mainly because each chamber has their own youth parliament. I mean, the Senate has their own youth parliament, and the Chamber of Deputies has their own. So this is the first thing, that they are not organized, and they compete to be which one is the real one youth parliament. And secondly, is that political parties have youth organizations within the parties. So they campaign in the same way the political parties do when they are trying to elect their representatives. So when they are in the parliament, they don't speak for their district or their communities. They speak for their parties. So it's like a mirror of the real, actual parliament. And then the agenda becomes, the opposition becomes an opposition to the government, and the majority becomes the defender of the government priorities. So that's why it's been very difficult to have good results in this exercise, and they do it each year, but each year it is the same with youth and women's parliaments. It's more or less the same.
Thanks, really interesting.
Thank you for that. Thank you all for your questions. And thank you for your talk. So let me just say that our next Public Engagement Hub webinar is going to be co-hosted by the IPU and IPEN on Wednesday, the 22nd of January 2025. And we're going to be looking at what AI might mean for public engagement with parliaments. The details can be found on the Public Engagement Hub website, and there will be a link in the chat. And also just mentioning that all Public Engagement Hub seminars, past and future, are listed on the IPU website as well. So with that, I just want to say thank you to everyone who attended, and also thank you to the interpreters for being available. And thank you very much to Khemvirg for your talk. That was really interesting. I'm sure we've all learned a lot. So thank you very much.